the Middle East. I took this subject for the very simple reason that almost nobody, I guess, in the society of libertarians, let's say, in the global perspective, is interested in this matter, because most of them think that it's simply impossible now to think about libertarianism in the Middle East. Let's ask the question, why libertarianism in the Middle East? I guess we all can agree that the situation in the Middle East is far from being perfect. So we need some changes, and in my opinion, maintaining the status quo in the region will not lead to any positive solution. Also, the historical models of society and the state also are incompatible with the present regional state system, and the solutions like tribal solutions, etc., are closer actually to the libertarian solutions in some matters. We'll speak about it later. And we have to also acknowledge that the ideologies which are now prevailing in the Middle Eastern countries, in the governments, like nationalism, socialism, or radical theocracy, are not natural in this part of the world. And they are actually leading to the conflicts which we witness today. The last case, because libertarianism is right and just, I include here all the reasons why we want to create a libertarian order in general in the world. Terms used in presentation, as Middle East, I will understand the Greater Middle East, especially to use the case of Libya and Somaliland. And libertarian is simply as a either political philosophy based on the principle of non-aggression, without making any distinctions if it will be minarchism or anarcho-capitalism, because it's too early just to discuss what model of libertarianism should be applied in the Middle East. First, let's have a look at the states in the Middle East in the past. We could speak, of course, about the Rashidun Caliphate, for example, because of the Medina Constitution, or about Fatimid state, but they are too far in the history, so I don't think they are a good example of the prevalence of these tendencies today. The example which is closer in the history is Ottoman Empire, especially the Millet system. As we know or not know, Millet system was allowing the minorities to use the law based on their religious beliefs. So Greek, Orthodox, Jewish people, Armenians had their own courts, also their own taxation. They were kind of autonomous from the state. In general, there was a religious tolerance. The people of different confessions were getting even the high ranks in the administration. Example of economic liberalism is, for example, Imaret. Under this term, I understand the situation when Sultan was given the land which was not used before for free to some noble person, and the only condition for giving this land was to create the center of trade called Imaret. And a very interesting case showing this religious tolerance and tolerance for the minorities in general, this case of Sephardi Jews, which in this time had to escape from Europe, they were expelled from Spain and after that from Portugal, and they found the shelter in Ottoman Empire. But what were the negative sides? Negative sides for sure, especially for Balkans, was the Devshirme system, in which from every family one son had to go to the service to the Sultan as a janissary or as a servant in the farms in Anatolia. Minorities, despite the partial autonomy, they were still considered the second category citizens. They had, for example, to wear distinct clothes from the Muslim people. And interesting fact, today in the Muslim states, usually when the Sharia law is applied, the Christian or Jewish woman has to wear the scarf, but in the Ottoman Empire they were forbidden from wearing the scarf to not be similar to the Muslim woman. Tolerance was a policy of state administration. It wasn't something thought to be moral or just. It was just a logical way to maintain the empire, which was consisting of very large number of minorities. And there were, of course, economic interventions, especially taxes on the trade, foreign trade, but also more bizarre ways, like, for example, moving all the Jews from Bursa to Istanbul after conquering Istanbul, because Jews simply didn't want to move to the new capital, and Sultan forced them all to do it. Next historical example is Mughal Empire on the edge of today understood Greater Middle East. And the policy of tolerance was even greater than in Ottoman Empire until the time of Sultan Aurangzeb, which I will speak about momentarily. A very important fact was the abolition of jizya, because for the Ottoman Empire it existed, and Mughal Empire it was totally abolished, because sultans, especially Akbar, believed that all the faiths are similar. Akbar even tried to create new faith out of Islam, but he didn't achieve his goal, because probably 20 persons joined this new religion. Government was very weak. It basically occupied the capital, and in the regions the very big power had the officials of the government. Sometimes they were merging even few functions, because Sultan didn't have enough trustable people to manage the regions. And there was very little involvement of state in the economy, especially on the taxes, again, in foreign trade. Negative aspects. As in Ottoman Empire, the policy of tolerance was basically a rule of maintaining the empire, not a moral value. The example was Aurangzeb, which I mentioned before, who decided to come back to the, as he understood, the pure version of Islam. He started to destroy the churches, destroy the shrines of other religions, which led, by the way, to the destruction of Mughal Empire in the historical perspective. Vast majority of land was not in the hands of the people, but 90% of the land was in the hands of nobles, of people who had connections, direct connections with the ruler. And empire was perceived just a source to make wealthier the sultan. And army was treated as a tax collector. There was a very big army, hundreds of thousands of soldiers, which main aim in the times of peace was just to provide the source of income for the emperor. The weakest example is Iran during the times of Safavids and Qajars. I can use it only example in the perspective of today's time of persisting violence in the Middle East. The tolerance was limited, and it was not a general rule. For example, Armenians had a very big autonomy. In the same time, Jewish people didn't have autonomy because they were perceived as the worst category of society. In the later times, during the Qajars, the Jewish had a little protection because of the influence of the foreign powers like Great Britain or France. Also, there was a case of weak central government, but in the same time we can understand this kind of decentralization, but due to this weak central government, the persecutions, especially of Jewish people, were happening, because without the knowledge, actually, of the rulers, the officials in the regions were creating their own persecutions to achieve their own goals. The negative aspects, the policies towards minorities were very frequently changing due to this independence, semi-independence of the officials. So in one region in this time, for example, Jewish could enjoy their autonomy, freedom, etc. But in other, there was a full-scale persecutions. Also, against the Muslim people, in the beginning of Safavid dynasty rules, there was a mass conversions of Sunni Muslims to Shia, because Safavids chose Shia, one of the tariqas of Shia, as their state religion. So when we will They were usually the very big multi-ethnic states with a politics of tolerance, but it was used as a way to maintain the empire. Generally, the markets were free, apart from the taxes on the foreign trade. And states on some level, it couldn't reach to every village, it couldn't reach to every rural area. That's why it had to cooperate also with traditional structures of tribes. What states offer today in the Middle East? This map is presenting the current situation. The red color is the states which are the fallen states, or the states in which we have war. The yellow color is indicating the armed conflicts in one of the regions, for example, Sinai Peninsula in Egypt. Blue color is indicating the kind of dictatorship rules, and the green color, let's say, on the standards of the Middle East, are countries which are kind of free. So these states are four: Turkey, Tunisia, Morocco, and Kuwait. And this map is based on the Freedom House reports. Blue color indicating the states which are totally unfree. The yellow is partially free, and the green, two states, Israel and Tunisia, are considered free by these reports. In the matter of human rights, the political systems which are prevailing in the Middle East are failed states, like Libya or former Italian Somalia. Dictators, kingdoms, theocracies, or flawed, in the best case, flawed democracies. Situation of minorities, they are, in general rule, they are oppressed in many ways, from killing to mass conversions, etc. Free press, in most of the cases, is non-existent or struggling to survive, even in exile. And freedom of religion is non-existent. Even for example, the branches of Islam are persecuted by other branches of Islam, as we can see in Syria and Iraq now, the fights between Shia and Sunni Muslims. Political ideologies: nationalism, theocracy, and socialism. Socialism, for good, is decreasing in the Middle East. This ideology is dying there. But nationalism and theocracy are existing, and sometimes they are existing without any stronger evidence. Like, for example, Jordan is a country which didn't exist ever in the past, before the colonial rulers decided to create it. And the king is a king coming from the family of Sharif of Mecca, so he's not even from this region. Security situation. As we understand state, one of the great values of state is that it's bringing us the security. In the case of Middle East, it's not like this. We have wars and armed conflicts in Sudan, Afghanistan, Libya, Somalia, Egypt, Yemen, Syria, Iraq, Pakistan, Lebanon, Israel. We have separatist tendencies. For example, in Syria, we have in Iran, we have in Iraq, we have in parts of Libya, we had before in Yemen, because now the separatist movement took control over the capital of Yemen. Terrorism, army and police in the times of peace even are used just as a tool to oppress society. And also as a state security, we understand that state is keeping the control over the border, but in the case of Middle East, we cannot be so sure about it. Economy. The big part of economy of Middle East is informal economy. For example, in Iraq, 70% of hired people are people on spoken agreements, let's say. They are not registered in any way. In Turkey, it's estimated around 45%. There are problems with social security. It's sometimes non-existent, sometimes it's very corrupted. For example, in Saudi Arabia, one of the richest states of the region, 25% of society are under the limit of poverty. And despite the programs which are including billions of dollars, these people are not getting this support because most of it is taken by the royal family or people connected with royal family. Income inequality, the perfect example is the Gulf states, where we have almost non-paid workers from the Southeast Asia, for example, or this 25% of the Saudi Arabia society. And at the same time, we have very rich royal families. There's corruption, and still exist the big problems, and now it's even getting bigger because of the situation in Syria, the problem of refugees. For example, in Jordan, it's estimated that half of the population are refugees now. And we can include in this point also the problem of people, of the workers from the Southeast Asia. In Oman, they are constituting 1/3 of the population, more than 1/3 of the population. These people cannot work, or they have very low paid works, or they are sometimes even modern kind of slaves. Now let's ask about the possibilities. In my opinion, the possibilities are as many as the nations in the Middle East, which we can see now in the map, the languages. First, low attractiveness of the Middle East states. What I understand under this point. When I was in Poland, in Europe in general, when we are speaking about the possibility of libertarianism, usually who are against it for the simple reason that in comparison to Middle East, the people have usual job, they have some income, they have health insurance, they have access to education, they can feel kind of safe and home. In Middle East, they cannot enjoy this right, so the case for the state from the beginning, when we are speaking with them, is weaker. Tucker in the 19th century was enumerating 4 monopolies, which are the tools of state to limit the freedom: the land monopoly, money monopoly, patent monopoly, and protectionist monopoly. In the case of land monopoly, in some states in the Middle East, now the state doesn't have the control over the land, like Syria and Iraq. Money monopoly, there is one case now in the Middle East, and it's not the best case because it's IS, which is creating its own currency, but still. Patent monopoly, as we all know, even in Turkey it's not very strong value, and in other countries it's almost non-existent. And protectionist monopoly, which can exist because of this, that most of the countries still, even if the situation inside of the country is not very good, they are keeping the control over the borders. And Johnson's in the book Free Market, Not Capitalism was also adding 5 new monopolies: agribusiness monopoly, which was never existing in the Middle East, because the food from the Middle East cannot compare in any logical way with the food from other regions of the world because of the scarcity of good land. The security monopoly, as we told before, is also non-existent because of the armed groups, because of the armed conflicts, and a lot of tribal militias and terrorist organizations. Infrastructure monopoly, in a lot of states of Middle East, the infrastructure is focused on the bigger cities, between the bigger cities, for example, but in the rural areas there are no involvement. There is no involvement almost of the state in this matter. Communications monopoly is all over the world, and we could see during the Arab Spring it's undermined by the presence of this wonderful thing called internet. And regulatory protectionism, in which Johnson is including taxation and other forms of licenses, which, as I told, because of the very big role of informal economy in the Middle East, is also undermined. What are the possibilities in the sphere of economy? The potential. First, the prevalence of informal economy. Let's imagine the situation that we are not imposing, that one day we are waking up in the libertarian world in Europe. In Poland, for example, 10% of hired people lost the job just because they are hired by state in this or other way. So in the Middle East, the shock caused by this switching from state to the libertarian economy will be definitely smaller. Just removing these monopolies, which I mentioned in the previous slide, could bring the substantial change in the economy. For example, the tribes could regain the access to their lands, and they could claim the revenues from the selling of oil. The end of embargoes, as we see in the case of Iran, because there will be no state to impose the embargo on. And also better access to resources and markets for people who will be migrating, because the state borders will be removed, or the migration will be easier. So in the idea of the no borders project, it would automatically lead to the decreasing of the poverty. In the sphere of politics, first the political climate. Most of the governments in the region don't enjoy the support, the popular support, because they don't care, because they are kind of the dictatorships, theocracies, etc. Also, the still existing spirit of Arab Spring, and also the Green Revolution in Iran. And in the end, the secessionist and the federationist movements, which are prevailing in the Middle East. In Islam, there are few institutions mentioned in Quran and Hadith, which could be included in this libertarian order, and definitely they are not working in the previous Middle Eastern states. These institutions are Shura, the order of consultation with the people of the decisions of the ruler. Ijma, the necessity of achieving the consensus on the matter. Balta Act, the contract. The first state, Islamic state, the institution of Iman was considered as a contract. So people, if they would all agree that they don't want Imam anymore, they could just impose the new Imam on his place. There is no defined form of state. Also, Ummah, all the population of Muslim people in the world is considered as brotherhood, as equals. And in Quran, as we know or not know, Christianity, Judaism and Sabians, I don't know how to understand it today, but Christianity and Judaism for sure are the religions protected by Islam, and they shouldn't be harmed. And this specific branch of Islam, which is Sufism, functionally the Sufi orders differed from the state mainly in the absence of taxation and the monopoly of violence, the two differences that in general prevail between the religious regimes and the modern states. This quotation is from the book dealing with the Sufi orders in Iran during the Safavids and Qajars, but the book is totally not about libertarianism, but when I was reading it, it struck me that it's like the pure definition of what we want to achieve. The Sufi orders, as we can see in Ismail A, I know that it's not the best example, of course, about the values, but they have the potential to create society, to make order, the social order, without the state violence, without the monopoly of violence. And usually Sufi leaders, Sufi philosophers, were putting very big emphasis on the religious tolerance. Tribal character of politics is also very important. The tribes and tribal alliances were, or still are, in some countries, the political actors. They are very strong, the ties are very strong in Iraq, for example. 80% of population still are acknowledging and really feeling ties with their tribe. And tribes have definitely lower potential because of their size and also because of the practice which was before to monopolize the violence. In the aspect of law, in general, in Ottoman Empire, in Mughal Empire, in Safavid Empire, and for example in Libya till 50s, in the 20th century, there were competing law systems, so the person could choose which law system is more suitable for it, her. The first level was the tribal law, but sometimes the tribal law was not thought to be totally objective, so people were going to the lower Sharia courts. The Sharia courts in the smaller cities were usually using in sentences not only the Sharia, but also the customary law. The aim was to bring people more to Islam. But in fact, it created a new level of law. And in the bigger cities, the Sharia courts, which are strictly using only the Islamic law. Another example of customary law in the Middle East is still existing the Kurdish customary law. It's even reaching to the London, where Kurdish Peace Committee is making sentences based on this law, despite the existence, of course, of the English law system. In the matter of security, I would also use the European example when I'm speaking with people in Poland. And they are usually saying that people cannot have arms, cannot be totally free because they will have arms and they will start to kill each other because we don't have culture. In Poland for the last 70 years, 60 years, we cannot possess the guns because of the communist regulations. In the Middle East, this problem doesn't exist because people have guns and will have guns probably forever. Exceptional example is Yemen, where there are more guns than people. Already existed tribal and minority militias, like in Somaliland, in Libya, Houthi. So, in the case when we would of course stop the violence, the wars and etc., they could serve as kind of security system for the people, especially for the tribes. There are even more complex structures like Hezbollah, which is not only providing the security for the supporters, but also the healthcare and education. And similar situation is with Maronites, with Christians in Lebanon. And finally, we have structures like Iraqi Kurdistan or Somaliland, which are not acknowledged as state, but they are actually functioning on the state, so the potential for creating state-like structures. But of course, we would have to include the libertarian violence principle. There is this potential. In the case of social security, the societies in the Middle East are working in a different way than Europe. It's not an atomic society where everybody is responsible only for himself or maybe for his family, a close family. But people are responsible also for the community. So when somebody will be in the financial need or health need, the community will support him. So just the structure of the society in the Middle East and most of the countries is already supporting the case that the state system of social welfare is not really necessary. There existed many foundations during the history. They exist today. Sufi orders, as I told, they have also big potential to create the society, but also to provide the charity, to provide the social services. Dava system, I'll use for the first time a very bad example, but the rule hidden in it is important. Hamas, which is collected in Dava every year, not counting the state support from Iran and etc. In Dava, itself from the persons, from the individuals are collecting millions of dollars, which are spending, of course, on the arms against Israel, but also on the healthcare and education for the Palestinian people, and institution of zakat. The expected effects, according to me, the end of large-scale conflict, because there will be nobody to make large-scale conflict. In the best case, it will be conflict between the tribe and the tribe in one region of Iraq, not conflict including all the country. Removal of mentioned economic obstacles, allowing to work also to the refugees and to the access to the better jobs for the foreigners in the Gulf states. Renewing of intercommunal dialogue instead of violence, because the tribal law before was putting very big emphasis on this. For example, institution of dia, the blood money, instead of just killing each other. In the case of family feuds, they were trying to settle it as a money matter and to restore the peace in the communities. And opening the way for the new forms of organization and for implementation of purely libertarian values. We have to understand that this possibilities, this potential which I was mentioning, is not including all the areas of libertarian thinking, for example, the gender issues. We cannot expect that when we will just bring the tribal system again, it will be perfect. It will not be. So there is a big area to work on it for us as libertarians. Threats. When we assume that only in the Middle East, the libertarian order would appear, we have to remember that in the rest of the world there will be still states. So states would be probably very tempted to use this situation for their own use. For example, to regain again, this time from the tribes. It would be even easier than from the states. The oil resources. Growing. That's what I mentioned, the growing influence of the global powers. There is, of course, possibility that after a short time of let's say, liberty, the oppressive governments will be restored. There's always this possibility. And in the end, if everybody would decide to, instead of following the peaceful means of conflict resolution, they would decide to fight, we could create one big conflict zone, because in every of these countries still exist or existed in a short past the conflicts, the armed conflicts. What libertarianism? It's possible that it would be based, this, let's say, new rules of the society would be more conservative. And we have to accept it on some level, but we would have to work on it, of course. So it would be kind of anarcho-conservative. The liberty would be probably understood not as in classical libertarians in the West. So the liberty wouldn't be a liberty of individual, rather the liberty of the communities. But as long as usually the people understood it as the rule that they have to care about their family, about their extended family, about their tribe. So it wouldn't be imposed as a rule of law. It would be just a custom. And there will be, of course, we cannot say what kind of model. It cannot be, I think, minarchist in the way that we are saying that Syria is becoming the minarchist state, but other states, smaller states, and kind of minarchist states could exist, but also anarcho-capitalism, the kind of Sufi order, city-states, or tribal confederations which existed before. The questions, which I cannot still answer, and maybe you can help me with this, is how the libertarian order can appear in the Middle East now. How to promote these values which are not included in the tradition and in the history, like gender issues. And is hypothetical libertarian order able to survive surrounded by the state system?